the virtual STEAM Ford Academy Laboratory. We're so excited to have First Star National STEAM Academy joining us for this fun experiment. At STEAM Ford Academy, our mission is to inspire youth to pursue science, technology, engineering, art, and math with confidence, curiosity, enthusiasm, and a genuine sense of belonging. All of our instructors have been teaching and working in the laboratory for over 40 years combined, and they're excited to bring their passion and their talents right to our virtual laboratory. So grab your supplies and let's get started. So for today's activity, we are going to be making our very own robotic hands. And along the way, we're going to learn all about bioengineering. Now you may be asking, what is bioengineering? Well, let's break the word down. Bio is a reference to biology. And we know biology is the study of living things. And then engineering, we know that is the people that build things, they design things, and they really work to construct things to fix a problem. So if we put those two together, bioengineers are using their concepts that they know for engineering and applying them to biology to fix biological problems. So what they do, they often make biomedical devices, they might make other tools, they sometimes make things for amputees. They do a lot of things. And so today we are going to be making a robotic hand to simulate what a bioengineer does. So if you're following along today, you're going to need a few supplies to build your own robotic hand. First, you're going to need some paper. All right, and this should be like a construction paper or perhaps a thick piece of cardstock. You're also going to need a marker, some straws, and I have different size options. I have my regular standard drinking straws and then also a jumbo straw. We'll need scissors, a lot of cutting in this activity, tape, and then yarn. I have 5 different colors to help out whenever we actually build it so we know which one is which, but you can have all the same color or 5 different colors, but you'll need about 2 feet of yarn per color, or at least in 5 pieces of it. So before we get ready to build our robotic hand, we have to think like a bioengineer would, because again, we're making something that's supposed to act like our actual body parts. So take a look at your hand real quick. Move your fingers up and down and ask yourself, what's allowing them to move? There has to be a signal that's being sent from your brain, through your body, through your wrist, to the palm of your hand and out to tell your fingers to move. Now, there are a lot of parts that are in your hands that allow our fingers to move, so we're going to learn all about those today. So when you think about your hand has a lot of different things inside of it. There are bones. There are joints, that's the part that helps us to bend. There are muscles, ligaments, tendons, and all these blood vessels. So let me ask you a question. Inside of your hands, how many bones do you think you have? What about the number of joints? How many do you think you have? And those muscles, what do you think? What about your ligaments and your tendons? Go ahead and write those down. Well, in case you didn't know, inside of the human hand, in each hand, there are 27 different bones that are in your hand. There are also 27 different joints. Who knew? And then the muscles, the things that are actually contracting, we have 34 of those. Now those ligaments and tendons, the things that are actually pulling and allowing your fingers to move, over 100. And then the blood vessels, don't even try to count them. There's so many in there, we can't even, well, we could count them, but they're definitely higher than 100. So if you're ready to get started, go ahead and grab your construction paper. Now the construction paper is going to be used to actually get the base of our hand. So remember, your hand has 3 different parts. There is the palm, there are the fingers, and then your wrist. So you want to make sure when you draw this out, you get all of your parts there. Since I am right-handed, I am going to trace out my left hand on my paper, and we will use that for our demo. So I'm going to just trace it out using my marker, making sure that I capture my fingers, that palm area, and a little bit of the wrist. If you don't have a marker, you can use a pencil or a pen, just something that's able to capture your hand parts. Once you have it there, you can then use your scissors to cut that out. And once you're done, you can just set that rest of your paper to the side because we will have a good model of what our hand will look like. So now that we've cut out our hand, our next step is to actually draw the different parts that are there. So if you look at your hands, you can see that we have these lines that are showing up on our hands. Now those lines on your fingers, those represent our joints. And so we want to actually mark those on our paper. So you can see, if you look at your hand, we have 2 on each finger, plus the one that connects to the palm, with the exception of our thumb. Our thumb, we only have 1 joint, and then that one that connects to the palm. And so we want to draw all of that onto our paper. So first just start by drawing a line going straight across at the base of each finger to represent our joint. Next, on each finger, with the exclusion of the thumb, add 2 lines about 1 inch apart from each other. So right there and right above there. And do that for each finger. And if you want, you can line up your finger to see if it aligns. I'm just going to print it there. And only 1 for your thumb. Now, what's interesting, again, remember those joints are what are allowing our fingers to bend. Now, inside of the fingers, we have bones that are there. But you'll notice, again, that thumb is different. The thumb only has 2 bones in there, and we'll talk about what those are in a second, whereas each of our fingers have 3 bones. Now, because we want this hand to move, we're going to need to bend each of these areas to represent our joints. So go ahead and just make a little fold on each area. And you'll see very quickly that this is what's going to make our hands start coming to life. Remember, we are acting as bioengineers here, and as such, we want this to be as realistic as possible. So just fold each one and let it unfold to represent those joints in your hand. Fold. All right. All right, so you can see here, we have a nice hand model that's showing your hand's shape, and you can see those joints. All right, so the next part that we're ready to do is actually put those bones in there. Now remember, inside of the hand, there are 27 different bones. And the bones in your fingers have a special name for them. Does anybody know what those are called? Those are actually called phalanges. Now that's a really big word, phalanges. And I always remember my kindergarten teacher used to always tell us, don't point your phalanges at me. And that's a word that's always stuck with me since I've heard it. So we're going to use our straws to represent our phalanges. Now we're going to need 3 for each finger. So that's 3 times 4 gives us 12. Plus 2 more for our thumb. So we'll need a total of 14 small straw pieces to represent those phalanges. Now, what I like to do is pick up all my straws, just my normal drinking straws, and put them together so that I can easily cut going straight across. And so grab your scissors. Again, if you are a little younger, you may need a little supervision or help here. But we're going to cut small pieces of straw, about 1 inch or so, to represent those phalanges. I'm just going to go straight across. And cut slowly so that we don't have any go flying. Ooh, like that one. So that's 5. We'll do it one more time, and that's going to give me a total of 10 small phalanges. Oh, one went flying. There goes another. And then if we go across again, that's going to give me another 5 to add to my stash. And since a few of them flew away, I'm going to do one more cut. If you didn't lose any, you won't have to do that one. So now we have plenty of phalange bones to work with. So once you have your phalange bones, you can kind of move them over to the side so you can work with them easily. We're going to use some tape to help us get these phalange bones in place. Now, it's important to make sure that when we position these onto our paper, that we make sure that the hole that's on your straw remains open. So you'll just want to align it into that position where we're going to be actually placing our phalange and taping it down. Now for me, I like to actually prep some tape first. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull a few pieces of tape and get those ready so that I can easily grab and go. So I'm just going to put them here on my table. You don't have to do this step, but we're all about being efficient here and making sure that we can do things a little quicker. So if we kind of do a little work up front, that will help us out. I'm just getting a few pieces of tape ready for me to grab and go. So we'll need a total of 14 pieces of tape here for this step. So again, just prepping a few pieces. They should only be about 1 inch or so long for us to use. I don't know how many I pulled, but we'll come back to that. All right, so now that you have your tape and your phalange bones, we're just going to go ahead and tape going across the straw, making sure that we do not cover up that hole. We're going to need to pull something through those straws when we get through this part. So we want to make sure that we are not covering that up. So I'm just putting them in position. And making sure that we just kind of wrap that tape around so that we can get there. Now what's interesting about these phalange bones, you also have them in your feet. Your toes have phalange bones as well. Now, how many bones do you think you actually have in your feet? It's actually pretty similar to our hands. There are 26 bones that are found in our feet. Now our hands play such a critical role to our day-to-day lives. You know, we use them to cook, we use them to drive, we use them to pick up things, put down things. So they are essential. So bioengineers really work to help people out to make sure that their hands can function well. Get a few more pieces of tape so I can grab. If you feel like your tape is hanging over a bit, you can just wrap that around to try to prevent too much hanging over. And you might find that if you actually put the tape on top of the straw first and then place it to the paper, it's a little bit easier. Okay, so we're making progress. Just getting them into position. Now these bones are connected to one another and they work with the joint to actually help to move. So remember we said in total we have 27 bones and 27 joints. Remember we also said we have a lot of muscles in our hands. We got 34 muscles in your fingers or in your hands. I want to ask you, how many of those 34 muscles do you think are in your fingers? So, in reality, there's none. There are no muscles in your fingers. Those muscles are actually found in the palm and in the wrist. And we'll talk about how we can use those to actually move our fingers. I would have thought there would have been some bones or some muscles in my hands. Almost there. So remember, we talked about that the bones, they work with the joints to allow your fingers to bend and move, right? There's ligaments in your hand that also connect the bone to bone through that joint. So you have ligaments in other parts of your body, like your knee. If you've ever heard of your ACL, that's a really critical ligament. It's a ligament that a lot of football players know well and care about because they tend to tear them. So a torn ACL or a torn ligament can definitely cause some problems with your mobility. There we go. All right, last phalange bone getting in place. And wrap it around. All right, awesome. So remember, while we have these bones here, these are just your phalange bones, but there's other bones that we're not representing all the way in our palm and our hand, our wrist. All right, we're gonna need one more set of straws here in the middle, and that's gonna be what's gonna allow all of our tendons that we're gonna put in here in a second to come together. So this is where your jumbo straw will come into play. So your jumbo straw, we're just gonna go ahead and cut about 2 inches or so of your jumbo straw. And we're gonna place that in the palm, toward the palm of your hand. We need one more piece of tape. Let's get that ready. And just go ahead and put that going across. Okay. So we've drawn our palm, we've drawn our fingers, we got our wrist, we got our phalange bones. Now we gotta figure out how to actually get these hands to move. Remember, there's no muscles in your hands. So how are they moving? Well, what allows our fingers to move are these things called tendons. Tendons actually connect bone to muscle. And so these tendons are going to connect from the bone that are found in our fingers into the muscles that are found in our palm and our wrist. So for our purposes today, we're going to use some yarn to help us out to represent our tendons. Now, we're going to need tendons for each finger, so you're going to need 5 different pieces of yarn. I have a few different colors here just to help me out so I know which one is which. But just cut about 2 feet or so of yarn of each color. And we're going to use that for our tendons. So that's 1. And you can use the first one that you get to represent, or use it as a guide for how long to make that next one. So I'm just pulling that out. Doesn't have to be exact. You may find you have way too much, and that's fine. So that's 2. Again, you don't need different colors. It just will help you out when you get ready to start moving your hand in order to tell which tendon to pull on to get it to move. And pull it out. Again, we're using that string kind of as a guide just so we know how much we need. One last one. And we'll just pull that out. And we will cut. It should be the last that we need of our scissors. So we can put all that to the side. And now we are going to need some tape to help us to connect our tendons, which is represented by the yarn, down through the palm so that they can all come to one central point, much like they do in our hand. So for this part, what I recommend is you start from the top of your finger and you're going to work your way down. If your yarn seems to be a little frayed or anything like that, you might need to put a little small piece of tape on it or cut it so that it can easily slide through. So I'm just going to, acting like I'm using a needle and thread, push that yarn through the straw and bring it out through the other side. All right, so you see how that came through? And we're just going to work our way through the straws in order for us to bring it into our palm. And then once you get it through all of the fingers, all the phalange bones, you then can bring it through that central straw, because this is where we're going to be controlling our hand from. So just drop it down. It may help you to pick it up just a little bit so you can weave it all the way through. And once you get that string through to the end, grab one more piece of tape and place it over the top just to secure that yarn in place. If you have a little extra, you can cut that off or just wrap it around. Okay? But once you have that in place, you'll be able to pull on it, and you can see that's what's going to allow our motion to start. All right, so we're going to do that for every single one of our fingers, making sure we pass that tendon through each of the phalange bones and then bring them to our palm. So grab another piece of yarn and we're just going to string it through. Again, for me, what I find, if you go from the top, allow it to just kind of drop through, that makes it a lot easier. And every once in a while, I can get a little lucky and get it through all three at the same time. But just let gravity do its job and push it through. And once it's through, pull it through and continue to work that through. So if you're thinking about becoming a bioengineer, there's a lot of coursework you'll end up taking along the way. Bioengineering is an interdisciplinary subject, and so you really need a lot of knowledge about a lot of different topics. You would take chemistry, coding, mathematics, physics, engineering classes. You really get the best of all worlds because it touches so many different things. And so as a bioengineer, you could be working in a lot of different industries. That could be working in government, you could be working in the medical industry, really applying your talents to a lot of different fields. So again, once you get that paper, that straw through, go ahead and place a piece of tape around the end of that string to lock it into place. Again, just wrap it around, get it in place, and seal it down. And I always like to just check to make sure that they're all moving, and we're good to go. Awesome. All right. Get the next one through. And we just want to allow gravity to do the job for us, get it through, and pull it. Almost there, boom. Now, if you have some difficulty getting your straw through this bigger straw, you can always use like the end of your pen or a pencil to help push that through. And if you couldn't find a jumbo straw, no worries. You can just put some smaller regular straws in place of this to serve as your base. So here, this one's having a little difficulty getting in, so I'm just going to use the end of my pen to kind of push it through. Hopefully it's going to catch it down towards the bottom. It's coming. And again, let gravity do some work for me. Or you can even pull on some of the other strings to try to get it through. Once a few of them are in there, it gets a little bit sticky, a little bit harder to get them through. And push through, push through. Actually, I'm going to use instead a straw. My marker's a little bit big. And so I think the straw is going to help me out because it can actually fit in there. There we go. So again, this is all about what engineers do. They see a problem, come up with a strategy, test it out, see if it will work. And so this straw seems to be working a little bit better. There we go. To help guide my remaining piece through. There we go. Woohoo! We made it. All right. So now that that's through, I'm gonna add one more piece of tape. We got 2 more to get through. Again, the yarn is representing our tendons. That straw is representing those phalange bones, those finger bones. And that central part is where our palm is. All right. Keep this by, just in case I need it. So bring it through. That was one. All right. Do one more. Boom. One more. Great. And now we will feed this through. Again, now I have my straw here to help me out. Get that in there. I'm just going to push it through with my straw. Push it down further. Again, if you don't have extra straws nearby, you can also use a pen, a pencil to help get that remaining string through. And once it comes down, you can use some of the other string to help you grab. There we go. And we'll tape that in place. Just wrap it around. And again, I always like to just double check, make sure it's moving. And we have one final tendon to get in. So again, starting from the top. Boom. And one final one. All right, and then the last one we will put through our central area. Get that in there, and then we'll use the end of the straw to help push it through. As I said, if you don't have the jumbo straw or a milkshake straw nearby, you could have put 5 smaller regular straws here, and then you would pass each tendon through an individual straw instead of trying to get all of them through one big straw. You would also tape them right in the center, very close to one another, so that they can serve the same purpose as this larger straw would. And that was this one. Boop. There we go. And add a piece of tape. And just get that in position. All right. And boom, just like that, we have created our very own robotic hand. And so we can now move all of our fingers. If we pulled on separate tendons, we would be able to pull or isolate a particular finger that we want to move, or you can just move them all together. But this is a great demonstration that shows you how the hand works and what bioengineers have to do along the way as they think about designing new tools or techniques to help us improve our overall lives. So I hope you all enjoyed today's activity. Make sure you guys come back to our next activity, and we can't wait to see you soon. The last thing that we always do when we close out any virtual laboratory is all together we say STEAM forward. So I'll count us down on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. STEAM forward! All right, y'all. So much fun. Thank you for coming to our virtual laboratory, and we can't wait to see you again. Have a great day. Bye.